I would leave in the dark. I would come home in the dark, and I would be crying in my car. Like, this is not what life is supposed to be. This cannot be what I was promised. I was out of a job. I thought, this is my sign. I'm gonna do something that I love. What do I love? I love real estate. I had saved up $20,000 for our first rental property by selling $5 to $50 personalized items. My dad taught me that there's no such thing as no. You say yes, you figure it out. The only reason why you're not getting started is because you have fear of the unknown, because you don't know what's going to happen if you push through and you give it a try. For all the women out there that want to be real estate investors, seemingly held back by the male domination, put that out of your mind. Everyone who says, I'm a woman, I can't, that's BS.
Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing. I am Rod Khleif, and I am thrilled that you're here. We have an absolute dynamo today named Casey Franchini, and Casey's from Memphis, so we're going to have a lot of fun with that if you've ever heard me talk about Memphis. But she kicks absolute butt with her husband in the single-family and residential multifamily space. And so we're going to have some fun. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rod. I am really excited to be here today.
Oh, thank you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and, give us some background on who you are and why you ended up in real estate?
Well, it all kind of goes back to 2007. And even just quite a bit before that. I graduated college. I was on the 5-year plan. And I knew I wanted a job. I knew I wanted to make money. But I also knew I wanted to be a mother. And there was such a stigma around women working, putting their kids in daycare versus staying at home and not contributing financially. My dad brought me up to be an entrepreneur. I had that sort of internal spirit to forge my own path and make money for myself. Yet I wanted to be a mother. So I thought, well, how can I have my cake and eat it too? What can I do? I wasn't quite sure. And so I went, I was in Southern California at the time. I got a job right out of college at a public relations firm in Newport Beach, and I was driving an hour and a half every single day to work. I would leave in the dark, I would come home in the dark, and I would be crying in my car. Like, this is not what life is supposed to be. This cannot be what I was promised. Why would I go to school my whole life to drive to work in the dark, come home in the dark for what? How am I going to raise a family? So whatever happened in, the universe, the company shut down due to the owner's personal weird thing is going on. And so I was out of a job. I thought, this is my sign. I'm going to do something that I love. What do I love? Well, I love real estate. I know I'm young, but I love looking at houses. I lived in California right before the market crash. I would go to every single open house, every single new build. I would drive for hours. So I got my real estate broker license, and I started finding flips for investors. So I looked really young then, and I was young. In California, yes. I looked really young, and so it was very hard for me to sell $1 million homes, right? To be a listing agent and sell $1 million when I looked like I was probably 15. But I did find my niche with real estate investors, and I would drive all around to the desert, to the beach, to Los Angeles, and try and find flips for them. I didn't understand at the time how they were funding $1 million properties and flipping them. I thought, well, they must have a lot of cash. I didn't understand then, but I knew I wanted to get into real estate somehow. And my husband and I said, well, maybe rental properties is it. Maybe we can buy just a one little home and we can rent it out. So in the Inland Empire, we made probably about 40 offers on properties. Never quite pulled the trigger on any of them. Something was holding us back. I don't know what it was. I think it was just the sheer fact that we didn't have anyone validating our decisions. No one to tell us, yes, it's a good idea. No, it's not a good idea. Or say, yes, your numbers are right. Or yes, you're right on how much, or you're wrong on how much it's going to cost to fix up. So we didn't buy anything. That was probably around 2010. Fast forward to 2013, we moved to Memphis. My husband got a job. We moved out there. And I said, okay, Blake, we're going to do it. We are not going to chicken out. We are going to buy investment properties. We're going to buy a rental. We're going to do it. And he's like, well, Casey, we just bought a fixer-upper. You're not working. You're a stay-at-home mom now. We have a 2-year-old and a brand new baby. How are we going to afford to buy a rental property? I'm like, oh, I don't know. He's like, well, you need to figure it out. I'm like, great. Okay. I said, we'll figure it out. So after thinking and mulling it over and making list upon list of what can I do to make money? What can I do to make money? But I still want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want the full-time job. I thought, well, what girl doesn't like, to do crafts? So I started an online Etsy shop. And in about a year and a half, I had saved up $20,000 for our first rental property by selling $5 to $50 handmade, personalized items. I would go to the Dollar Tree. Okay, I kid you not, Rod. I would go to the Dollar Tree and I would buy these little stuffed bunny rabbits about 6 inches. And I would get my Cricut and I would put the little kids' names and dates on them, sell them for $5 for Easter gifts.
Nice.
So that's my journey.
That's called doing whatever the freak it takes.
You know what? My dad taught me that there's no such thing as no. Okay. You say yes. You figure it out. You can't wimp out. Yeah. And you just got to figure it out.
Was your dad an entrepreneur?
He was he was an entrepreneur off and on throughout his life, but never quite made it.
He wanted it though.
Yes, very badly.
And he pushed that on you.
Yes, my sister as well.
Love it. You talked about these hurdles that you went through. With dealing with, being perceived as being too young. And I call those limiting beliefs, by the way. I'm too young, I'm too old, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money. Another one was I'm not good enough, or I'm not analytical enough, or whatever. There's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are. But you overcame that perception by dealing with investors. But then you saw these guys making big money, and you thought it was out of reach. By the way, how did you become a broker so fast? Typically, you got to have some experience first.
Well, now you do, but back then you needed to have, I think it was like a 4-year degree.
Okay.
You had to take extra classes, and so now you have to have the experience to get your broker's license. So I've kept it. I still have my California broker's license. At the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to start my own brokerage. So I'm like, well, I might as well go for the broker degree, the broker license instead of the salesperson.
Got it. Yeah, I was a broker when I turned 18. Same thing. You could do it back then with education. I just was surprised that it still was that case in California. So you knew you loved real estate. You got your broker's license. By the way, she mentioned the Inland Empire. Could you describe what that is real quick? Because a lot of people aren't going to know what that means.
The Inland Empire is San Bernardino County. Okay. Yeah, it's not in Los Angeles and it's not beachside. Okay. It's more going towards the mountains and the deserty area.
So you got deals that you can actually afford.
Correct. Yes. Properties at the time were anywhere between $145,000 to $180,000.
Gotcha. Yeah, which is reasonable. So you're in Memphis now. Now you're up to, you've got quite a few properties. Talk about, and you focus on buying residential, correct? Residential meaning single family all the way to fourplexes,
correct.
Right? Anything 5 units or higher is considered commercial real estate. So talk about some of the things you learned about buying residential. Let's talk first about how you find them, okay? So start there, and then let's talk about how to finance them, okay?
So when you're looking for residential rental properties, for me, the key is finding properties in good areas. You need cash flow and you need appreciation. Mm-hmm. And people, in my opinion, don't really get rich on cash flow, especially when you don't own hundreds of units. You're going to get rich on appreciation. The cash flow will pay for the property. You'll get some money in your pocket, but that's not where you're going to get your $3 million beach house. It's going to come from appreciation and time. So you need a really fine balance of buying properties that cash flow, but also have good potential for appreciation.
Yeah. They're not in the hood. They're not in areas that are declining.
Right.
But what I do want to make clear is they have to cash flow.
They have to cash flow.
Don't be buying stuff that's tight on the cash flow or doesn't cash flow, thinking, well, we'll just bank on the appreciation, because that's a recipe for disaster, especially in this current economic environment. Cash flow. I mean, that's the reason my podcast is called Lifetime Cash Flow, and I wrote a book called How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow Through Multifamily Properties, but the subtitle is The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, i.e. the new rules are focus on the freaking cash flow, because you got to make it over the humps.
You have to cash flow, otherwise it's a bad deal.
That's it. But I like the fact that you're drawing attention to the fact that it has to appreciate as well. And I didn't get that memo. I bought a lot of properties without that memo. And I'll tell you, I'll trash Memphis for a second. We're gonna really bring it home here in a minute. But I bought houses in Memphis for $1,500, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot houses that I regret buying. $3,500, $5,000, tons of them under $20,000, and I regret every single one of them because they're a freaking nightmare to manage. And one other aside on that: back when I owned them, evictions were extremely difficult because they had they had Chapter 13 bankruptcies, and so if you filed an eviction, you would the tenant would get about 13 letters from attorneys saying, I can stop your eviction by filing what they called a wage earner, and that was a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Now, thank God they fixed that since then, but yeah, it was an absolute nightmare. So how do you find them?
So we look for areas that have appreciation potential.
Right.
Okay.
You're targeting the areas.
Right. So we're targeting B-class properties where young college graduates with high incomes would live, because people there are going to fix their homes up. They will appreciate,
and they'll pay their
they'll pay their rent.
Right.
So we try and buy in areas where we have six-figure income earners. The tenants, just graduated college, they're newlyweds, about to get married. Maybe have professionally trained dogs and buy furniture at Pottery Barn. We want those types of tenants because we want no problems. We want low turnover costs, and we want the rents to rise.
And the values to rise.
Well, and the values, exactly. Right. One of the first properties we bought was in 2016. It was $92,500. The rent at that time for that first property was about $1,050, $1,075, I think. And now it rents for $1,600.
Nice. So, I know you help people buy multifamily. Do you have any multi yourself, or it's just single right now?
It's just single right now because we're in Memphis.
Okay. Well, guys, and I've owned 2,000 single family houses that I rented long term, 200 of which were in Memphis. And I'm anti single family now personally, just because of what I went through in 2008 and 9. But if you've got them and they're close together geographically, I do believe in them. I was too spread out. I had houses 2 hours north of me, 2 hours south of me, and everywhere in between here. It was a logistical nightmare. But so you've got these residential properties. Did any of them require fix-up?
Yes.
Well, first of all, how'd you find them? Through brokers or through what?
So a lot of them were on the MLS, and some of them were off market.
Okay.
We would always talk to all the neighbors and let them know who we were. If these tenants have any problems, here's my card, here's my phone number. Okay. And then they would call me and say, hey, we want to sell our house.
Okay, got it. So you did a little direct to seller stuff as well. Okay. Have you done any of what some of these big flippers do with the big mail campaigns, outbound cold calling, none of that stuff? Okay, you just took it easy. By the way, you've got 3 kids, yes?
Yes.
And you're doing this with 3 kids?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's freaking impressive. Okay. Did you have to do any repairs on any of these properties?
All of
them. So you had to hire contractors.
Well, we have started hiring contractors recently.
Okay.
However, Blake and we own pretty much every tool that Home Depot and Lowe's sells. We do all of our own rehabs.
So you were swinging a hammer.
Yes. And I was, I remember I was 8 months pregnant, prying up wooden floors with a crowbar at one point, and then nursing my newborn in the room next door after he was born.
Tell me what your excuse is, you listening, okay? Tell me what your freaking excuse is. I love it. So now you've started hiring contractors, so you actually have a life. All right. Well, that's okay. That's how you start. I mean, I know I think you told me your gross on your properties right now is almost $150,000 a year, which is fantastic. So I believe you're also managing them yourself.
Yes, I self-manage.
Talk about what that's like. Because I mean, in my world, we hire third-party property management companies, and we're asset managing those companies, but we're not dealing with tenants and toilets.
Yeah, it is a ride, and that was the one thing that I had to learn all by myself. And if you said, Casey, what's your biggest mistake you've made in real estate? It wasn't the deal. It wasn't not running the numbers correctly. It wasn't knowing how much it costs to rehab. It was not putting in the right tenants. Okay. That was my biggest problem. Not doing proper tenant screening, using my heart. Over,
using your heart.
Using my heart. No. I know. I don't do that anymore. Now I pull my heart out, and I put it in a box, and I lock it up. That's what I do now.
And you have the conversation. Listen, here's what I can expect from you. Pay the rent on time. Don't bother your neighbors. Don't trash the property or around the property. And here's what you can expect from me. If you have a legitimate maintenance request, it'll get fixed very quickly. Operative word, legitimate. If you screw up the blind because your cat crawled up it, then you're going to be paying for it, and it's not going to be a priority. But Yeah, but anyway, yeah, got it. So
100%. I have the same spiel to every tenant. I say, I am an amazing landlord. You're going to love me. I fix your properties on time. I communicate very clearly. Here's my email, my cell phone number. Text me, whatever. Our life will be great. However, I only require just a couple things from you in return. I require you to pay rent on time. And if you can't, I need you to communicate that with me and not ghost me. Don't ignore me. Don't pretend I don't exist. You have to communicate. And two, when things are broken, please tell me. If there's a leak coming out of the living room ceiling, please don't put a bowl under it and just let it go. Let me know. So pay rent on time or communicate and tell me when things are broken.
I'm not sure I'd even say communicate. Just pay the freaking rent on time, period. But I see what you're saying, because they will ghost you.
They will ghost, and then we end up in eviction court, and I'm like, we could have done a payment plan. We could have worked this out, but you just wanted to ignore me.
Yeah, okay. Well, I could argue with you about payment plans, because very often they don't work. I mean, this is my freaking 40 years experience in 2,000 single-family houses, but... I mean, sometimes they work, but a lot of times they just snowball.
They do, and that's one of the things that happened with my nightmare tenant.
Yeah. We're going to talk about nightmares here in a minute. So how do you finance these places that you're buying?
We save up our pennies.
Okay, all right, but that's the cash out of pocket. But
correct.
What about the debt?
We do regular, traditional, conforming loans. So we'll put 20 to 25% down, and
Fannie Mae then.
Fannie Mae. So we get 10 loans in each of our name, and most of those are close to being paid off. So we could pay them off if we wanted and open up more slots.
I see. Okay. So you're just saving up your own money. Have you ever gone out and you've never brought in partners or raised money or anything like that? You haven't done any of that?
No, because we haven't needed to.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you, that's the only way you're actually really going to get some scale, is to use OPM, other people's money, and possibly even consider some creative financing. I think I think the proverbial shit's about to hit the fan, frankly, and I think there's going to be incredible opportunity. Now, Memphis is fairly stable through these economic headwinds. That's what I've seen, and the real stuff's going to be happening in the commercial environment anyway. But so let's talk about. Some nightmares, some headaches, some problems that you've had. I mean, we know. I mean, listen, you're making great money. You're buying in the right areas. You're focused on cash flow and the potential appreciation, but it's not all rosy. So let's talk about some. I call them seminars. It was a $50 million seminar for me in 08 and 09 when I lost everything. So talk about some seminars. We're going to take a break from this great episode for a word from our sponsor, which is the Multifamily Bootcamp. Now, financial success is what you're after. We are rapidly approaching one of the greatest opportunities I think we're going to see in our lifetimes to capitalize financially. So if you know real estate is the vehicle for you, you're crazy not to spend a couple days with me at one of my boot camps. I've always got one right around the corner. Thousands and thousands of people have taken action on their journeys to creating generational cash flow for themselves and their families from attending my events. I don't sell anything at this event, so it's basically 16 to 18 hours of training with nothing being sold. Kind of a no-brainer if you're serious about this. To check it out, text the word links to 72345 or go to rodslinks.com. Again, text links to 72345 or go to rodslinks.com. I promise you'll be glad you came. Let's get back to it.
So my biggest horror story was, like I said, from not properly screening tenants. We had this couple. And I thought they were great. And at the time, I did not run credit and background checks because I thought, well, everyone who lives in this neighborhood.
Run credit or background either. Oh, my God.
No, this is the beginning.
Okay.
And I thought, hey, everyone who lives here is going to have bad credit. I just don't want to know. Right? That was my thought at the time.
A learning lesson.
They're very big learning lesson. Yeah. So everything was great until they broke up and he moved out. And she begged me, Casey, please, can I stay? My kids are getting straight A's in schools. Sob story, they're doing really well. I said, but you don't make enough money to cover the rent. And she said, but I'll get another job. I was like, okay, fine. I should have just said no, okay? Because here it goes. So she does get a job. Things are going fine until they aren't. The first clue was when they bought a pit bull, and I owned the house across the street from her house. So I was driving by doing something at that house. I noticed a little doggy in the window, and I knock on the door, and she goes, "Oh, I just bought this little baby pit bull, super cute. I was going to tell you about it." I'm like, "Sure you were." There is a red flag right there that I didn't take heed. When I open the door, it smells like smoke. Not just cigarette smoke, but also the house is hot boxed. And I'm like, OMG. All right. I let it go. I just charged her an extra $50 a month for pet rent and said, you need to get insurance and add me as additional insured. This is a dangerous breed, blah, blah, blah. Right. So she does that. I'm happy I'm getting extra $50 a month. And I go, well, the house is already kind of messed up, since the guy moved out. The house is already messed up. So I can kick the can down the road, or when she's paying, I can kick the can down the road. And eventually when she moves out, I'll fix the house up. But I'm either going to fix it up then, or I'm going to fix it up now, and she's paying now. So fine, let her stay. Rod, it's getting worse. Okay. Her son hits the brand new glass security door. Don't put in glass security doors with a basketball, and that's broken. She backs into the garage drunk with her car. So now my garage door is beyond repair, needs to be replaced. Finally, she's passed on rent a couple times in a row. Gave her chances. At one point, you're going to hate me for this. At one point, she owed me $4,000.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
Much more than that even. Yeah.
She caught back up, and I said, if you're ever late again, I'm not giving you 30 days. Now, in Memphis, in Shelby County, there's a waiver that they can sign, and I have it in my lease agreement. So it says, I don't need to give you, you're waiving your right to a notice, and rent's due on the 1st, and you have until the 5th to pay without late fees. On the 6th, you're done. So on the 6th, I could take her to court. This is a few years ago, and I was on my way to California for vacation to visit my family, and she was late on rent. I said, if you do not pay rent by this day, that's it, we're done. And she didn't. So on my way to the airport, I stopped by the court and I filed eviction on her. She moved out once she realized that I filed on her. She was very mad at me. I can't believe you filed on me. I said, well, you didn't pay, and I told you I'm done.
So she moved out. What'd the house look like?
So she only owed the 1 month, right, of rent. All right. So we get back from our wonderful beach vacation, visiting family in California, and Blake and I go to the house on Saturday morning, and we walk in, and all of a sudden, there's like 1,000 bugs jump on us. It's fleas. She had 7 dogs.
Oh my God.
And the neighbor told me that the pit bulls had babies, and during that past winter freeze, she had them outside in a crate. They all died.
Ugh.
And she put them in a trash bag.
Ugh.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, wow.
Cockroach infested, flea infested. She stole all my appliances. She painted all the kitchen cabinets.
Oh,
she had incense like stuck in the walls. I don't even know. I don't even understand. It was just terrible. She left a bunch of furniture in there. I had to have some guys go in and clean it out.
What it cost to turn it?
Over $15,000.
$15,000.
Yeah,
that include the garage door?
I think that was about the garage. Yeah, included the garage
that's
door.
Expensive.
It was a single car garage.
What was your cash flow on that property?
I think $450 a month was my cash flow.
Month. So $450 a month times 12 is what, about $6,000? And so you lost over 2 years cash flow.
Yeah, and she was there for about 5 years.
And that doesn't even include the lost rent, because you probably lost probably at least 3 months between.
Well,
3 months fixing it up.
That's
and then
right. It was
it.
even more than that. I had to leave it vacant for 30 days for the fleas.
Yeah. So,
it was a nightmare.
listen, I don't want to trash single family, because it's a great place to start, and that's what most people do. I mean, I've had people on the show with thousands and thousands of doors, and they almost all started with a house, duplex, triplex, whatever. But here's the problem. That example, that didn't just cost you the cash flow on that house. That probably cost you the cash flow on 3 or 4 of your houses. And, that's the problem with single family, in my opinion, is if you've got a vacancy, you're going to pay to turn it over at least a couple grand, typically, a minimum couple grand. So you're going to lose 2 or 3 months rent plus a couple grand, and that can wipe out your cash flow for the year. And when you've got a house, if you're vacant, you're 100% vacant versus a plex, or something a little larger even is better. But again, I don't want to discourage you from doing single family, because it's a great place to start, but just realize that that's really what it should be. It should be the stepping stone to be getting into some larger stuff. So you've got safety. So you've got, it's more secure. It's safer, bottom line. I mean, when I lost everything in 2008 and 9, it was the houses that pulled me down. My multifamily did just fine. It pulled back about 10, 11%. I had several apartment complexes. I still own them if I hadn't cross-collateralized them with packages of houses to save a few basis points in interest. Like I thought I was brilliant. We've all got these horror stories. I could tell you horror stories about some of the landlord-tenant stuff I had. I'll tell you a funny one. Two funny ones. So I had a 5-bedroom house in Denver, 3008 Columbine. I shouldn't have probably said that publicly. Anyway, I had a partner lived in Chicago, Al Pick, and one day I'm reading the newspaper and there's a picture of my house and the headline said "Making Money the Old-Fashioned Way." The guy turned it into a whorehouse. True story. So I called my partner in Chicago. I'm like, "Al, you own a whorehouse in Denver." The guy said he was in the maid service and
the maid service.
Oh yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, and oh God, it was funny, but it wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now to talk about. And then one other one, I had a house here in Florida on a canal. I mean, I was able to buy this place for like $150,000 on a direct access canal out to the ocean, which just amazed me. About 5 of them in this, about every one under $150,000. But anyway, I'm sleeping one day, and this is down on, I'm not going to say the address, but I get woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning by the news, and it's like, "This is so-and-so with Wink TV. Have you seen the news?" I'm like, "No." They say, "This is Rod Khleif, yes. Do you own the house at so-and-so Boyle Terrace?" "Yes." Well, they had a DEA raid. The guy brought in, like, in the tonnage of cocaine. Night vision goggles, submachine guns, the whole thing. Yeah, and they arrested this guy. And he had an 800-plus credit score. When they have that kind of a credit score, you really typically don't worry about anything, but all brand new furniture. Anyway, I've got a lot more, but we'll leave it at that. So
we learned our lesson.
We learned our lessons, yes. Now, I know you're an advocate for buying out of area as well. Mm-hmm. Talk about the advantages of that and the hurdles. I can think of hurdles, especially in the smaller stuff like this, because you're going to really be reliant on other management companies. I'm kind of a proponent to turnkey sales. I don't like them, and I don't like them because I believe that the person that sells them is the one that makes all the money.
Correct.
And you're reliant. But how, I know you talk about this sometimes in your stuff. Talk about how you mitigate some of the challenges.
So, and that's a really good question. Mm-hmm. And I would say for a lot of people that live in high cost areas like California mm-hmm. or New Jersey, New York, they can't invest near them. Right. So does that mean you just can't be a real estate investor and that sucks for you? No, there are other options. And especially with today's technology, especially since the pandemic, more and more people in the industry have had to use technology to communicate virtually. And that's really helped out real estate investors to invest out of area.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Okay.
So one reason why you'd want to invest out of area is because that's your choice. Of course, it's better to invest near you if possible. Right. 100% I believe that, and that's why I do. But I also believe in not investing in too many properties in one geographical area, and there's a risk there as well. Right, there's a risk there as well. So when you do go out of area, you reach a lot of, there's a lot of problems that you could encounter. Mm-hmm. The biggest one is you're not there, and nobody cares about your properties and your deals more than you. Mm-hmm. So you have to really do your due diligence in vetting everyone on your team. You need to have property management companies, real estate agents, contractors, even local lenders would be very helpful, especially in bigger deals because they are more flexible. But vetting those people properly and making sure they actually know what they're talking about.
So how do you do that?
So, well, let's talk about real estate agents, I guess, for example, right? That's probably one of the first team members you'll need besides a lender is people get excited and let's go find properties, let's go house hunting, let's go look. As a real estate agent myself, past real estate agent, if people were to ask me, Casey, are you investor friendly? I would have said yes, even if I was a brand new day one real estate agent. Yes, I'm investor friendly. Yes, I will work with investors. Have I before? No, but will I? Yes. So you got to be careful in how you vet real estate agents. They need to have personal hands-on experience. I have my broker's license, and I will tell you, You know this.
You mean personal hands-on experience actually owning a property?
Owning real estate.
Gotcha. Owning
yes.
investment real estate.
Owning
Got
investment
it.
properties. And let's say maybe they don't own investment properties yet. That's their main focus. Their clientele are investors, and they understand rental properties like the back of their hands. I want my real estate agents to know just as much as the property management companies know. I don't want them to have to say, oh, I don't know what it would rent for. Let me go ask. I'm not sure what, the market rents are in this area or what the amenities are that tenants want in this area. Let me go ask. No. Your real estate agent needs to be investor friendly, meaning they understand and day in, day out work with investors.
No, that's really solid. Yeah, that's solid. Now, obviously, if it's out of state, you need property management as well. And I've had lots of horror stories in Memphis as well, but in other areas where, the property manager is a broker that's doing it on the side. Not that that's bad. That can sometimes be good. But how do you vet property managers to minimize, and you're not going to eliminate, to minimize problems?
So there's quite a few things I feel like property management companies should have, or at least have the knowledge of. One telltale thing that kind of irks me is when you ask them how much your property would rent for, and they go pull a rentometer report, or they go pull some report from somewhere else. It's like, okay, thanks for the report, but what about your personal knowledge with your portfolio of homes that you manage? You tell me from your own mind what this house will rent for, the minimum, the high end, and what I could do to fix it up. Don't just print me some report offline.
Right.
That's one thing that I can't stand.
Well, you
personally.
not only can't stand it, just shows that they're either not experienced, they don't have much of a portfolio, or they really don't care about what they're doing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And another thing I ask for, and I'll start the conversation off when I interview them with, how much, do you charge every month? And it's going to be between 8 to 10%. I go, okay, great, thanks. Can you send me over your client agreement, the one between me and you, and also a list of all your fees? And I have found that some markets, property management companies charge way, way more than other markets. And it's not all about how much they charge, but when they're going to take most of your cash flow, that's also part of the running the numbers.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I teach this as well. Especially, if you own a multifamily property that's 80 units or more, all the staff will be right there. You'll have your own maintenance guy. You'll have your property manager. You won't have any of that. And you'll pay, 3-4% management fee. But on residential multifamily or residential single family even, you're going to pay a much higher management fee, okay, depending on the asset class. If it's a C-class property, it could be 12 to 15%. A and B, maybe 8%. But you're also going to rely on their maintenance infrastructure.
Yes.
And maintenance can be a huge profit center for a management company. They hire some kid at $15 an hour and bill them out at $100. So you really got to, I've been screwed by that ad nauseum. And so you really got to check out the maintenance piece as well. And then I'll tell you, in my opinion, you've got to look at their technological infrastructure as well. Have they embraced technology? What's their website look like? If they're a digital dinosaur, that's a freaking problem, because everybody rents places on their phones now. So you agree with me?
Yes, the mom and pop shops, I love them, but I also don't love them at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm a mom and pop, right? I manage my own properties, but I would not have the infrastructure or the platform to manage for other people. And when you have managing so many units and you don't know the tenants personally, you need to have some sort of platform. And your clients, the owners of the properties, their success is dependent upon the property management company's ability to do a good job and keep the tenants happy.
It's a whole enchilada. That's everything.
Yeah.
If they do a bad job, you're going to lose your asset.
That's right.
Something you just said about knowing the tenants personally. Did you get the memo with that horror story that you shared about the dangers in that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
okay. Because I will tell you, I'll go to apartment complexes and I'll do everything I can not to let people know I'm one of the owners, because then you hear about every freaking problem they've ever had. People will take advantage of those personal relationships. And I've had them where I've slipped up and I've had them come in the next day and say, yeah, well, I met the owner and he said I could do, he said, you're full of crap. I didn't say that, but, okay. So we talked about out-of-state buying with brokers and property management companies, and I tell people also, talk to some local banks there and in the market that you're going to buy in, and see if they'll loan to out-of-state investors, number one, and get to know them, because they can be an incredible resource as well. And I will tell you, I think a lot I think a lot of property, well, and definitely in my world, in the commercial world, is going back to lenders. We're seeing it now. I've got a phenomenal deal under contract right now in San Antonio. We're seeing deals coming already. But I'm not sure about single family. I think single family's got enough pent-up demand. I don't think it's going to get hammered. So you are now receptive to potentially partnering and or raising money.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'll take 20, 30, 40, 50% of something over 100% of nothing any day, right?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
But after my horror stories in Memphis, it has to be in the right area.
Yeah.
You know, and personally, my feelings are Memphis is just not a great place for multifamily. And it all comes down to how much each unit rents for.
Listen, there are some nice people that live in Memphis. But
yes. See, I'm one.
I trash you, exactly. But I at my boot camps, I have 1,000 people in the room, and I'll say, is anybody here from Memphis? And nobody's got the guts to raise their hand.
I know it. I know it.
But, you know, I just tell you, I think it's a, there's, I don't want to say this publicly. Well, I will say this. Let me just say this and let you make your own conclusions. Okay, I lived in Denver, 2 million population. In the morning, they'd list the traffic accidents, and there might be two, three. In Memphis, what's it now? 500,000, 300 or 400,000 in Memphis
It's
proper.
bad.
Yeah, it's a fourth of Denver. It's a fraction.
Yep.
18 accidents every freaking morning. Okay, and that's with no rain. Okay, that's just accidents. I'm not talking out of smack here, am I?
No. You're on par.
Right,
yeah.
right. I was looking over at Blake because it's like, you know, Blake's here in the video studio. But anyway, and I mean, that's what we call a clue. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, I will say, my kids and I, our family, we've seen about 4 dead bodies.
No kidding.
And
Jesus.
we witnessed our first family shooting last December.
Jesus. Yeah. No, it's crime is really bad there.
Yeah.
And anyway, but they do have great barbecue, so there is that.
They do. Getting sick of the barbecue. Ready for a change.
Yeah. So there's some Memphis horror stories. Yeah. I mean, what killed me was the inability to remove tenants. It was just like, I mean, that just almost wiped me out.
Yeah. It's much easier now.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. So talk about, you know, I want you to inspire women who are thinking about getting into this business. Okay. I mean, I've got warriors. My coaching students are called warriors, and I've got some super rock star women in there that have thousands of units already. But talk about the hurdles that you may have encountered, or maybe even the mindset hurdles, if you had any. Maybe you didn't. You're a rock star. But I mean, talk about that dynamic a little bit.
I would say, you know, and everybody knows this, men dominate most business, and then men dominate real estate investing. When I go to my Memphis real estate investor meetings, I'm probably one of like 4 or 5 women in the whole room.
Really?
You know?
Wow.
And I'm pretty loud, right? And I love yellow. I love being out there. So it doesn't bother me. And I haven't had a lot of people put me down. But I'm definitely overlooked. You know, it's definitely something that I've been overlooked many times. And I would say for women, especially mothers, especially stay-at-home moms. I was a stay-at-home mom. I haven't had a real job my entire life. I had a real job for 3 months.
Wow.
Okay, and then I did real estate. So you can have your cake and eat it too. You can make money at home, investing in real estate, and still be a stay-at-home mom. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to make money, contribute financially, because that's what our culture is. Women need to go to work. But women are also expected to take care of the home.
Right.
And I wanted to have both. How could I went to school all my life. I went to college. Am I going to do all of that and not make any money? Right. I mean, that just wasn't in me to do that. I needed to contribute financially and make something of myself. And so for all the women out there that want to be real estate investors and are being, you know, seemingly held back by the male domination, you just put that out of your mind. It is, like you say, a limiting belief. Right. It is nothing. It means nothing. Right. You're making it, you know, everyone who says I'm a woman, I can't, that's BS.
Yeah, there you go. No, I agree completely. And I will tell you, I've got super successful single moms with kids, you know, and that adds another component. And so let me ask you that. What suggestions would you have for, you know, people that are sitting on the sidelines that know they need to do something? I mean, you know, what suggestions would you have? Motivate them a little bit.
I would say, and that's where I was in the very beginning. I sat on the sidelines. I watched investors get rich. I didn't know what to do. We made 40 offers on properties and never really closed on one. Close, but just didn't go all the way. And what would have changed it for me if I were to, go back in time would have been to get a mentor, to get someone to help me. Now, back then, Facebook was hardly even a thing. It was, how do you feel? Put an emoji. So there wasn't this huge social media and this online learning.
MySpace.
Yes, I had a MySpace. Yeah, so there, being in California, I knew nobody that owned real estate. My friend Mikey's grandma owned 10 rental properties. That's the closest I got to anyone that I knew that owned real estate on purpose, besides the occasional, I'm moving into a house and I'm just going to rent out my condo.
Yeah.
So if you're on the sidelines and you want to get started, the only reason why you're not getting started is because you have fear of the unknown, because you don't know what's going to happen if you push through and you give it a try. So join a mentorship, join a program like yours, get the help, because that's going to cut your learning curve in half. If you have someone on your side that says, this is exactly how you do it, here's a step-by-step plan, here's all the resources, here's the tools.
And here's a group to help you.
And here's a group to help you. Yeah. Right? You'll get your questions answered, and you're going to be in a community full of people that are doing the same thing and that are just
motivated,
like you.
Not trying to diminish your dreams. Not
like
trying
your
to
friends and family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And, I couldn't agree more. I brag about my warriors, my mentorship students. They own upwards of 190,000 units that we know of, and I've only been doing this for 6 years, something I'm super proud of.
If I would have had or known about a program like yours back then, I would have been way farther ahead. I would have bought those properties in California that were $145,000 at a time. I looked back. I found the addresses. They're $600,000 now.
Painful, huh? Yeah,
it's painful.
I know. Listen, to make you feel better, I owned 500 houses in Denver at one time, okay? If my dumb ass hadn't sold those, let me tell you, they'd be free and clear right now, and I would be netting, bottom line net, $1 million a month right now. Ouch. Yeah. So again, there you go. I try not to think about that. It's too freaking painful. So, in this journey of yours, exploring, learning real estate, doing real estate, any epiphanies? Have you had any recent epiphanies or even past epiphanies where you're like, okay, now I get it? I think we alluded to some, but anything come to mind with that question?
I would say epiphanies would be stick with what you know. And don't stick with what you know. Be very good at it before you transition to the next category or the next thing. There's so much shiny object syndrome out there. You're going to see someone killing it in multifamily. You're going to see someone killing it with short-term rentals. You're going to see someone killing it with arbitrage. And now people are buying hotels and buying campgrounds. You can get lost in learning and never taking any action.
You're looking in the mirror when you're saying this, aren't you?
Yes.
I know. I
yes,
can tell.
You get lost in the
totally
learning.
Yeah,
you get lost in the learning.
Yep.
Never take any action. So the epiphany is learn one thing, learn it really well. And then when you feel like you've mastered that and can do that in your sleep, now you've graduated and you can move on to the next big thing.
Yeah, you were speaking to me with that as well, because I've definitely have shiny penny syndrome. I've started 27 different businesses, and several worth tens of millions of dollars, most spectacular flaming seminars, What do you love the most about real estate investing? Tell me, what's and the least? Let's do the most and the least.
Okay.
What do you love the most about it? Start there.
Well, obviously, what I probably love the most about it is making the money. Making the money
okay.
Without having to invest a lot of my time in doing it.
Yeah.
That's the key, because I do self-manage and we bring in, close to $150,000 a year, and I hardly talk to my tenants.
Yeah, that's nice.
And they stay a long time.
Have you done any tech? Have you brought any tech in yet, or it's just still old school?
I tell you, I use Google spreadsheets.
Okay. All right. So what do you like the least?
What I like the least, I really hate showing properties. And I know this is so small.
It's not safe either, honestly,
I know. Well, we buy in better areas now, right?
Okay.
I learned my lesson from before. I don't buy in areas like that anymore. I buy in more A-B neighborhoods, right, with the appreciation and the high rent increase every year. But I'm really getting kind of tired of managing, to be honest. The showing and all that, that's probably one of my least favorite things.
Well, and it holds you back from further acquisition as well. It does. It takes whatever time you have that you're willing to devote to this, and you're doing, you're dealing with the
so I think, I would want to buy more if I didn't dread having to do that. I do feel like that's one thing that I'm like,
well, you should probably come to my boot camp and learn about. No, I'm just playing. But no, it's I'm kind of playing, but
Yeah.
it's the natural progression. I could totally see you sitting in that seat with 1,000 units in a couple years. I totally could. You've got the drive, and let's talk about drive for a second. You know, I do these clips every week called Own Your Power. They're motivational, they're inspiring, and I'm certain that's the reason that my students are so successful, because they do focus on mindset and psychology to actually take action with what they learn. But where do you get your drive?
I think
What's the why?
I have an internal perpetual drive to always be better, make more money, and always just level up myself. I've had that since I was little. I mean, I was freshman class president in high school and all of these things. I mean, it's just like, got to strive for the top all the time. And I got that from my dad, and my sister's the same way. She doesn't do real estate, but she's very successful. And it's just an internal thing. Always got to get high. It's innate.
Born with it. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
So here's a little caution for you, because I could totally see you killing it in multifamily. And multifamily is a team sport. You can't, and it's very difficult to take off that single entrepreneur hat. Well, you and Blake, but take off that hat and put on the team hat.
Yeah.
And partner and deal with partners, and which has its own set of potential headaches and problems. I'm actually dealing with one right now. And so you know, how do you feel about that dynamic as it relates to taking this to the next level?
I think initially, Blake and I's first goal was we're going to own 10 properties. It's going to comp a salary. And that was as far as we ever really thought. Yeah. Now that I see the power in real estate, and since, you know, we've gone through the pandemic and there's more opportunities open for out of area investing, and I've become more and more, I live, eat, and breathe real estate. All day. Nice. Their power is there. So I've never wanted to partner before. I wanted everything to be mine. But I realized that, oh my gosh, I totally could own I could be monopoly. I could own the board.
No question.
You know, I could own the board, but I would need to partner with other people. Yeah. So I'm open to the opportunity and the possibility, because
it's a mindset shift.
It is a mindset shift. Yeah. Cause I'm very control freak.
Right. That's the key. That's the issue you have to overcome, is a control freak piece. And that was it for me as well. It took me 2,000 freaking houses to get the memo. Yeah. But, and by the way, I've got an incredible resource. If you're going to get into a partnership, it's at rodslinks.com, and it's a list of questions you should ask before you get in a partnership, because partnerships are really easy to get into, like a marriage, and very hard to get out of. Ask me how I know. Yep. I give t-shirts away at my boot camp, say #ask me how I know, because I've made every freaking mistake you can make. I say, don't do that, ask me how I know. Anyway, but yeah, it's at Rod's Links. It's in the free book section. It's the list of questions you should ask, so you don't get caught up in the emotion of a deal without asking those tough questions. Well, listen, Casey, this has been a real treat. I really appreciate you coming down here for this. I'm honored that you'd fly down here and get on the show, and I know you've added value and hopefully inspired some of you listening to go out and buy some freaking property. It doesn't have to be 100 units. Start with a house. Start with a duplex, triplex, fourplex, whatever. Just freaking start. Bottom line. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. You know, they're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. You know, and maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, you know, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. You know, buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. See, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now, we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word crush to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.